everyone, to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I am Mr. Warren Hayes, and I'm hanging out with y'all tonight on a Thursday evening, March 17. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone who is listening to this live on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, which is where I record the podcast every Thursday night. And it just so happens that today is St. Patty's Day. Yippee! Yippee! So if you're watching this right now on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, then you do see that I am very much in a green festive spirit here. Hayes being, not exactly the least subtle Irish name you can find there. You can, I'm an interesting mixture because I'm part Irish. I have Irish relatives, and I also have French Canadian relatives. And and when I say that to a lot of people, for the first time when we start chatting, they're like, well, that's a strange combination. I'm like, well, not really, because the Irish and the French Canadians are both united in their dislike of the British. So they actually get along quite well on that front. But this is things that, stem from the past. I don't dislike the British. I like the British. I enjoy the British. You know what? I embrace the British. I embrace everyone. Thank you, everyone, for being here, because I embrace you. For joining me live here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. Again, recorded live every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central. And when you do that, you get to hop in here and join a live, colorful cast of characters who hang out in the stream chat and talk about pro wrestling as I talk about pro wrestling. So it's like this big, get together, a jamboree of podcast. Look, it is as if I was St. Patrick charming the snakes into coming to my podcast. That's a very bad comparison, because now people will think that I am calling them snakes. So before, I say anything else I will regret, I want to say hello to Tim Traver. Diecast Collective, nice to see you, Tim. Welcome to the chat. Robert Larry's here as well. Nice to see you. Kelly Tonjes, nice to see you as well. We had Mr. Frantz showing up a little earlier in the warm-up. Nice to see you. We got Conrad from Everything Pro Wrestling. Nice to see you, buddy. Got Katie from the She Lead Showcase. Nice to see you as well. AK Germany 96. Oh, brother, nice to see you. William Davis, hello. Got Hops 88 here too. Who else we got? We got DGMC and Phantomark 82. Hello, gentlemen. We got Kristen Ashley, who's here as well. The First Lady of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Nice to see you. Evan Wright too. Justin Firestein is with us. My God. Hope I'm not forgetting anyone. What a great crowd of people joining us here live on a Thursday evening. Thank you for being here. And you know what? If you're already having a good time, consider giving the video a like, a thumbs up here on YouTube. And if you're listening to this on demand, it's so nice of you to be here. Consider leaving a like as well. And drop a comment. Hey, why don't you tell me about what your favorite match was this week? You watched a bunch of wrestling, I'm sure, from whatever promotion across the universe. Tell me which matches you like this week, and I promise we'll respond. We'll have a little conversation. We'll get some talk going in those comments. Thank you very much for being here. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, salute. I salute you. That was salute. Thank you very much for tuning in there. I appreciate all the audio listeners as well. Lots of great stuff happening there too. Consider giving us a like, a thumbs up, a subscription, all that stuff. And if you're listening on Spotify, as I've mentioned previous times in the past, you not only get the Mr. Warren Hayes Show on audio, but you also get them on video. And you can swipe between both. So when I'm talking that I'm all dressed in green, you can be like, you're on Spotify, you're like, fuck off, Warren. I don't believe you. Oh, he is in green. The guy actually says legitimate things. Sometimes. That's how it goes. So you can do that. So that's awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank yous all around, but I do appreciate all your shows of support all the time, every time. Hey, you know what I started this week? Yeah, just on Tuesday evening, recorded the very first episode of Hot Shakes and Hand Dogs, which is a spin-off, I guess, of the MrWarrenHayes show, where it's entirely focused on independent wrestling. And I sit down with Sean Taggart, who is a member of the MrWarrenHayes show Discord, a guy who watches quite a lot of indie wrestling, is very much an independent wrestling connoisseur, also hosts his own Ring of Honor podcast. We sit down, the both of us, and we talk about the stuff that we watched over the weekend. So we did our very first episode this week, stacked episode to start, because there was tons of wrestling. There was GCW Astronaut that happened this weekend. There were 3 co-promoted Prestige Wrestling West Coast Pro shows. We reviewed 2 because I think the third one just didn't stream, right? So we reviewed 2 of those. We reviewed Beyond Monkey Business as well. Go check that out. It's here on the channel, youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, or on your favorite podcast app. It's there. So more wrestling talk and talking. And you know what? It's like I was when we were talking about doing it, Sean and I was like, look, I sit down and I watch the shows and I take notes. I take the notes for the indie shows as well. And I'm like, and I never end up talking about indie wrestling proper on this podcast here without going like 3 hours, because there's always stuff going on. There's always like WWE doing something shitty, or whatever. But then I get to this part here. I get to so I'm like, this is gonna be great. This is gonna be the perfect way to just make it happen. To have a separate podcast just dedicated to indie wrestling, and if you're new to indie wrestling, I think it's a good way as well, because there's a lot of things that we take the time to explain. I think it's good for people who like it. It's good for people who are dipping their toes in, or who want to learn more about it. I think it's a good place. I think it's a good place to start. You should come check it out. It's and we're going to be recording an episode per week. We're going to be recording it live, and then it will be available the very next day as a podcast in podcast format. There you go. Also, belltobells.com, your women's wrestling wire. Go check that out. BELLTOBELLEES.com. We also have the YouTube channel, which is at youtube.com/belltobells, and the Twitter account at belltobells. You want to follow all of that because women's wrestling is fucking cool. As we found out last night, again. If only the boss would figure it out. Anyway, there's a Discord, MrWarrenHayes Discord. I mentioned it earlier in passing a moment ago. So we're here. The link is in the description. Go check that. Become a member. It's a good time. Come and join us. I also have a What a Maneuver store if you want to buy some t-shirts that have to do with pro wrestling. Search for the MrWarrenHayes Show at whatamaneuver.net. And, of course, don't forget, I also do the members only stream, which is on Friday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central. Do that every Friday for members only of the MrWarrenHayes Show channel here on youtube.com. So if you want to join us for the members only stream, become a member. And then we sit down, we have a topic, we chat amongst ourselves. I take calls from the Discord for the members who are in the Discord, talk with the live chat. It's a good time. It's good. It's good stuff. We got a lot of members here in the chat, like DGMC and AK Germany, and Kristen as well. You can ask them. You can say, is it a good deal? Really, hell yeah, it's a good deal. Show some support for the show as well. So that's all good. So feel free to cut, and of course tomorrow Friday we're going to be doing that as well. So please come and join us show some support for the Mr. Warren Hayes Show as well. Also, and you can also drop us a super chat right here live and on the air. That's another good way to show some support. And on top of that, I will read your question or comment live and on the air. And such as AK Germany 96's super chat. Thank you very much. Where he says, as Kermit said, it's not easy being green. It's not easy being green. My Kermit impersonation is not there yet. Poor Kermit. I was a kid raised on the Muppets. On Sesame Street, the Muppets. I had a very close attraction to the, I was attracted to the Muppets, but not in like attracted as if I wanted to make out with them. It's not what I mean. I was I was drawn to the Muppets. Maybe that's what I should have said instead of dropping the word attracted and now getting all you weirdos weirding out. No, I'm not going on with my impression. Cut it out. But yes, so it was all a big. The Muppets were a big deal, and when Kermit sang that, it was very touching. Thank you very much for the super chat, AK Germany 96. Well, I guess it's time to do it, to hit it. Here is my ongoing New Year's resolution. Here is 52 things. One more to add to my list of 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
MrWarrenHayes has 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
Well, nobody was mad at Goldberg for not showing up in Jacksonville this week.
MrWarrenHayes has 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
Before we actually get into the weekly wrestling inspection, we've all heard the news by now, and it did make mainstream news as well. Scott Hall passed away. One of the most recognizable stars in professional wrestling, especially during the 90s, passed away Monday at the age of 63. Hall was taken off life support Monday after suffering 3 heart attacks Saturday. He had been in a Georgia hospital since March 1st after he sustained a broken hip that required surgery. An emblematic icon of wrestling in the 90s was Razor Ramon Scott Hall. He bounced around many places after breaking into the industry in 1984. He was trained by Hiro Matsuda, and later on Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda when he set his sails to Florida. He worked in Championship Wrestling from Florida, Mid-Atlantic, and Kansas City before going to the AWA, and then after had his first tour with New Japan Pro Wrestling. And here's something interesting as I was reading up and compiling some notes here. We always talk about Scott Hall, and the diamond stud, being like his thing, his first gimmick, that everyone kind of remembers. I don't understand why we don't talk more about the tag team that he had in the 80s with Dan Spivey that was called American Starship. I swear, as I was digging through the notes, if I knew about this, completely forgot. And I don't know why it isn't brought up more because of the names that they had. The team was called American Starship, and he was American Starship Coyote, and Dan Spivey was American Starship Eagle. And they didn't have like weird masks or were pretending to be like, space aliens or whatever. It was 2 dudes. Just fantastic stuff when you start digging. It's crazy. He debuted in the WWF in 1992 after those legendary vignettes as Razor Ramon, right? The obvious inspired, the obvious Scarface inspired Razor Ramon, right? Vignettes to this day you sit down, you look at them, and they haven't aged poorly. They're wonderful. They do the perfect job of introducing this character to us. He comes in as a heel, of course, and then he ended up challenging Bret Hart for the WWF Championship at the Royal Rumble in 1993. He also feuded with Randy Savage on top of that. And he really did usher the era of the cool heel, didn't he? Like, even before he got to the NWO and started doing his thing with Kevin Nash, like, there was just something about that natural charisma that Scott Hall had as Razor Ramon that just exuded cool, and you just wanted to cheer for him. You wanted to get behind him because of what he looked like. And on top of that, a fantastic wrestler, right? So after his now again legend, you use the word legendary, quite a few times when you talk about Scott Hall, but after this legendary loss that he took to the 1-2-3 Kid, right? X-Pac, Sean Waltman, and the WWF started to turn him babyface, and he became Intercontinental Champion after Shawn Michaels had decided to go on sabbatical, right? Taking the title away from Dean Douglas, and another kind of legendary angle there as well. And of course, Michaels, when he came back, it all set up the legendary ladder match that they had at WrestleMania 10 in 1994. One of the successes, one of the reasons why the ladder match was such a success is because they had been doing it. They had been doing ladder matches on the house show circuit, so they were testing stuff out, and when they got to the main stage, it was the first ladder match in WWF, still considered one of the all-time great matches in wrestling, period. And then he even had one later on with Shawn that was fantastic as well. Hall then would eventually in 1996 tell Vince that he wouldn't be re-signing with WWF. And he, along with Kevin Nash, went to WCW, with Scott Hall appearing on the very first 2-hour edition of Monday Nitro, which was in May on Memorial Day, and Nash soon came after that, right? And with, again, a very legendary line: "You know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here." And if you were to ask me, what are some of your fondest memories of, Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, this is it. This is exactly it. Because we didn't know we were gearing up for a Monday Night War proper, right? We didn't know. So while I was watching more WWF at the time, right, and then go on the message boards on RSPW and people are going nuts over Scott Hall showed up and he's not doing the gimmick, and what? That got me into it. That got me into WCW. Got to check back the moment. I'm like, holy shit, this is great. But just, that moment on, that's what I remember most about him. And that's everything that was set up in that angle was just so wonderful and perfect. And he was the perfect guy to kick it off. When you think back, you go back 2020, you look back at it with 2020 vision, right? It couldn't have been, you could not have started this off with Nash. Kevin Nash, he was Big Daddy Cool, right? Like they had to put the name Cool in his nickname so that people would get that he's cool. But Razor Ramon, Scott Hall, you never needed to get it pushed down your throat. You looked at the guy, like, fantastic. This guy is cool. He's just it. He's got it all. He was the perfect guy to kick it off. The perfect guy to kick it off. He and Nash, of course, formed the Outsiders tag team and would famously form the New World Order with Hulk Hogan at Bash of the Beach that year. And with the launch of the NWO that July, it just became... It was the WCW glory days, wasn't it? Just unprecedented levels of success in that led right into 1997, 1998. But during this time, Hall was also fighting off, very personal issues that got into the way. Maybe weren't exactly in control. And sadly, I don't know if you guys remember this, but they even turned his substance abuse into an on-screen angle, which was extremely sad when you knew what was going on in the background. WCW at the end of 2000 released Scott Hall. He left WCW with 7 tag team title rings and 2 U.S. title rings. And he resurfaced for a few appearances in ECW, but he worked more steadily back in New Japan in 2001 to something that I'm super happy popped up onto the the Twitter timelines and whatnot, where his status, I guess, as a legend even in New Japan was established, where he famously wrestled a young boy, because that's what they called the young lions back then, a young boy, Hiroshi Tanahashi, who was still, he wasn't even close to being the ace of New Japan, like nothing that makes Tanahashi, the young boy. The guy in the match is there to eat the pins. He's wrestling Hiroshi Tanahashi, and he takes a clean loss to Tanahashi, sort of to harken back to the 1-2-3 Kid angle, right? And Scott Hall would famously then go backstage and tell the bookers that this Tanahashi kid was money. You gotta keep your eye on this kid. He's absolutely money. He got back to the WWE in early 2002. He was brought in with Kevin Nash and Hulk Hogan, often in an angle that's often regarded as a response to the failed invasion angle. But by doing that, it was much to the dismay of many people backstage, knowing that you were bringing back some of the biggest, politicers in the locker room, and some people who had fled WCW because they couldn't get ahead because of the reign of the NWO, right? Just off the top of my head, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, all guys who were Chris Jericho, were all kept under the thumb of the NWO. Here now you're bringing them back, so a bit of a interesting decision there. But after the plane ride from hell in 2002, he would work one more edition of Raw, and he was released. He would wrestle for TNA, which launched the next month, and he'd work on and off with them throughout the 2000s. Hall's issues continued to escalate, and he was taking some severe damage to his body, including a pacemaker being inserted to help with his heart issues, and also a hip replacement in 2013. Of course, he famously worked with Diamond Dallas Page and his DDP yoga to get him back onto a path of health and sobriety, a redemption run, if you will. In 2014, he was inducted into the company's Hall of Fame. Actually, he'd be inducted twice, right? One as a singles competitor, and as a member of the NWO. Just was it last year or the year before? Yeah, the last year. And he would have cameos throughout the years. WrestleMania 31, Raw 25, and unfortunately, he's no longer with us. He's survived by his children, Cody and Cassidy. I send my deepest and sincerest condolences to them, to his family, to his friends, everyone who is grieving the loss of Scott Hall, unquestionably an icon of pro wrestling. Memorable. I had people in my day job, in the Slack, in our work Slack, on earlier this week on Tuesday, when the news really started to spread. They were posting like pictures of Razor Ramon, people who don't watch wrestling and who, some of them don't even know I watch wrestling. They're like, hey, Razor Ramon's dead. That's how much of an impact he had. And on top of all of that, he does leave a litany of memorable matches. Of course, his latter matches with Shawn Michaels. He had that really good tag team match in '94 with Sean Waltman versus Diesel and Shawn Michaels. He had there was this really fun 6-man tag as well. Hogan, Nash, and Hall versus Lex Luger, Randy Savage, and Sting. That was in '96. His match with Randy Savage as well. He had a really good match in '93 with Rick Martel, which people don't talk enough about, but it's a really good match that he had as well. And you want to talk about, what he did in New Japan as well. I mean, listen to this. In '88, he's in a 6-man tag with Bob Orton and Dick Murdoch, and he's taking on Kantaro Hoshino, Inoki, and Riki Choshu. So, he was wrestling a who's who even over there. He had his match with Bret Hart, of course, and he had another good tag team match as the Outsiders against Lex Luger and the Giant in '97. He wrestled Owen. Long list of accomplishments. He's wrestled so many people across the world. I hope he rests peacefully, because I believe he does deserve a little peace. So on that note, we are going to move on to the weekly wrestling inspection. We got a bit of a scare this week when on Monday Night Raw, Big E, former WWE champion, Big E, took a very nasty bump off of a belly to back suplex from Ridge Holland. There we go. On the floor, he landed extremely awkwardly on his neck, could not complete the match, and was stretchered out. Big E, being the absolute perfect human being that he is, and I dare anyone to prove to me that he is not a perfect human being, hops on his phone and starts giving people live video updates because everyone is sending him well wishes and so on and so forth. And he didn't have to do that. This is the thing. He didn't have to do it, but he did it. Why? Because he's a good guy. But he doesn't owe us updates or explanations. But he did it because that's the kind of human he is. He was in Birmingham, and he announced that his C1 and C6 are fractured. It's not a displacement though, which is a good thing, he said, and I don't have any damage to my spinal cord, no ligament damage, and no surgery, which is what I'm very thankful for. And I agree. All of those things strung together, nothing but good news in the context, right? Jason Major, nice to see you. Welcome. Yeah, I think I did say Monday Night Raw, right? It was on SmackDown. I apologize, but it was on. I think I did say Monday Night Raw, but it was on The Blue Brand. Like, to me, I'm still attached to Big E being WWE champion and being on Monday nights with the belt. I still haven't completely finished grieving that part. I'm still in denial, I guess. But you're right. Yes, it was on SmackDown. I apologize for the slight confusion. And he was at the University of Alabama at Birmingham Hospital for his treatment. He has since been sent home. He's been giving us some updates as well, and which is all good. And he, even today, he was taking a walk outside. He has the huge neck brace, and he was outside. He was outside taking a walk in his usual upbeat spirits. I mean, I think a lesser man would be broken spiritually at this point. But yes, he was absolutely fantastic to see him out there. Now, there was a report that popped up. Hang on, let me rephrase that. Some news sites started reporting an article written by a sports doctor claiming that Big E's career might be over. Let me read the article here that I pulled up on Cultaholic, if y'all don't mind. Former WWE and professional football magician Dr. David Chow has stated that Big E's recent neck break could bring the former WWE champion's wrestling career to a premature end. E suffered the injury on last week's episode of SmackDown. Shout out to Jason Major. Landing on his head when Ridge Holland suplexed him outside the ring. Since then, the 36-year-old has revealed his C1 and C6 vertebrae were fractured, even though he would not need surgery. Now, in his latest column for Outkick, which is a website, Dr. Chow wrote that even though C1 fractures don't necessarily require surgery, they don't always heal completely and could put E's career in jeopardy. Quote, the C1 fracture is most dangerous as the top cervical vertebrae is a ring and is commonly associated with immediate death or complete paralysis. Thankfully, the fracture was not displaced and he will not need surgery. However, this type of fracture often heals incompletely and it may mean the end of his wrestling career. On the C6 fracture, Dr. Chow anticipated a minimum 3-month recovery time. Quote, again, the C6 fracture is likely a compression injury due to the vertebral body. This likely requires immobilization, but not surgery. One would anticipate a minimum of a 3-month recovery with return to full function and activities for this lower cervical injury. The Cultaholic article continues to say Dr. Chow, who has worked with WWE extensively in the past, included a link to a gallery of him evaluating and performing a surgical procedure on Rey Mysterio in 2008. So, of course, everyone loves Big E, right? Everyone loves Big E. So, people read this news, they get really, really sad. And I'm like, who's this Dr. Chow? Who is this guy? It didn't ring a bell to me. I just decided to dive in a little bit, just take a look, do a bit of research, something that's called, I don't know if you guys have heard of this thing called Google, where you can put someone's name in and, or anything, and you can do a little research like that, very basic stuff. And I discovered that Dr. Chow has a bit of a past, right? He used to be the head doctor for the San Diego Chargers. But when you read a bit about what happened to this guy and who he is and so on and so forth, you find out about him that nearly 24 of his former patients have sued him since 1998, alleging medical superfecta of the medical superfecta of malpractice, personal injury, negligence, and fraud. He himself, 2 drinking and driving citations. He has a DEA investigation, accusations that he enabled his former business partner's prescription drug habit, 4 lawsuits from former Chargers that he treated, and in early 2000, 2011, a reporter named Brent Schruntbohr, who was a watchdog who kept an eye on Chow, counted 20 lawsuits filed against Chow since 1998, with at least 8 of those settled with payouts to plaintiffs. Another lawsuit that happened in the early 2010s had Chow where Chow was found liable for negligence and fraud in the case of a 15-year-old girl who had been disfigured in the course of Chow's treatment. And perhaps most famously, like if you're I'm assuming if you're a football fan, you might remember this. He was accused of prescribing late football player Junior Seau some Ambien to treat his depression. And it was believed that the use of the Ambien pushed Seau to commit suicide. Because feelings of suicide and suicide attempts are part of the adverse effects of Ambien in clinical trials. He had been suffering, Seau had been suffering from depression. Toxicology report revealed the presence of the sedative, and some was found in Seau's house. California Medical Board initiated an investigation in April 2016 in that regard, alleging Chow had negligently prescribed Ambien for Seau's chronic insomnia. This was settled with no, since then, like I think it was in 2017, all of this was settled to no changes to his medical license or his practice. But if I'm sitting here and there's people telling me, oh, the C1 and Big E's career might be over, and I look up this guy, I'm not sure how credible all of this is. I'd take it with an extreme grain of salt, considering. And sometimes I wonder, why do people just instantly report this stuff? Do they just go to his Twitter page and they see, oh, he has 75,000 followers. I don't know how many followers. And there's oh, well, that guy's credible. Christ, I'm not a journalist. I'm a dummy. I'm a big Irish dope who sits in front of a camera every Thursday night, talks about wrestling, and I figured this out within 20 minutes. Put it all together. I mean, it's just because the source is a little sketchy, right? Let's put it that way. Then again, not surprised he ended up working for WWE a couple of times as a consulting medical person, official. Anyway, of course, we want Big E to heal up. We want him back, but we mostly want him healthy. That's what we want. WWE have announced a new Performance Center class. Couple of big names in here. 2 that were wildly reported. Wildly. This 2022 class confirmed the signings of former Ring of Honor World Champion, Women's World Champion, Roxy, and Bianca Corelli, who is the daughter of Santino Marella. Here's the, very quickly, and then on top of that, well, there's a couple of indie wrestlers in here as well. Mitchell Lavalley, not quite sure exactly where to put the proper emphasis here. Worked in the independent circuit under the name Mother Lover Jake Tucker. Trained by Kane, Natalia, Tyson Kidd, Dr. Tom Pritchard. He won the 2014 WWE Show Us Your Superstar contest when he was 19, making a series of videos at the WWE Performance Center before appearing on the SummerSlam pre-show panel. Why do I have no memory of this? Why do I have absolutely zero memory of this? We've got some people who have appeared on NXT on 2.0 and NXT Level Up, like Kayla Inlay, who's there as well. Tesha Price is officially like signed, even though she has been on 2.0 as Fallon Henley. Congratulations to everyone who got signed. I hope it works out for you all. Look, and you know, I don't want to be that guy. Am I going to be that guy? I'm going to be that guy. I'm excited that Roxy has landed a dream for herself, right? This is something that she wanted to be in WWE, and good for her. And you know what? She has the look. She has the charisma. She, you know, everything. She's young, super young. So, you know, it's like, this is exactly what they're looking for these days. She'll, you know, she has what they're looking for. Right? So I think it's fair when people are like, Roxy, good for you. You know, she's gonna kick some ass. She's gonna run through everyone in NXT and on main roster. I'm like, maybe, because the state of WWE ain't great, and I don't know how exciting it is. I have trouble getting excited for Roxy. I'm like, well, that kind of sucks. We don't know how long she's going to be hidden out in catering, and they're not going to refer to her anything close as being a former Ring of Honor World Women's Champion. Are you kidding me? Oh, I hope she keeps her name. She's not going to keep her name. They're going to give her something. You know how... Look, of course I don't know any of this for sure, but there is more than enough precedent of WWE screwing up sure things or picking up prime talent and not doing anything of value with them. There's more than enough of that precedent for me to not get on any bandwagon and go, hooray good for her. She's gonna prove them wrong. She's gonna be awesome. The opposite is much more probable. That's sad. It's sad that I can't get excited for Roxy. I should get excited for Roxy. I like her. I think she had a lot of promise, and I'm talking to her in the past tense, like she's gone forever, you know. But that's the thing. They're not debuting her next week. For the WWE system, Roxy has no value for them. They have an actual Steiner in their midst, and they dance around the fact that he's a Steiner. They changed his name, but they have an actual real deal breathing Steiner, and they won't lean into it. What makes you think they're going to lean in to Roxy? I hope she does well. Here's the thing. I hope she does well. I hope she does kick some ass. I hope she proves me wrong. I hope she proves her value to the WWE, because they have a special talent on their hands. They really do. And if it doesn't work out, there is an entire independent wrestling scene who will gladly welcome her back. One thing I did breathe I'm not going to lie, and this is very selfish, but I did breathe a sigh of relief when this list came out and Alec Price's name was nowhere to be found. Because Alec Price had been spotted at the tryouts. Apparently, William Regal and Samoa Joe had seen him and were very keen on him. When both of them were fired, I was like, oh, maybe Alec Price is safe. As Alec Price is fantastic. Stuff he's doing in Beyond, amazing stuff. Like if you want a fast, vicious, like junior heavyweight type wrestler, he's your guy. I like Alec Price. He has the personality, he has the move set. He's fantastic. I'm glad we're not losing him to the system just yet. Did you guys know that Cody Rhodes didn't show up on Raw this week? Did you guys you're like, hang on a second. Where the fuck is Cody? Where did Cody Rhodes go? I had heard that he was going to be on World Wrestling Entertainment's Raw program on Monday. Where was he? It was in Jacksonville, Florida. And I was told all day that it was going to happen. I had, people teasing it, wrestlers on their Twitter accounts making sly comments. I had Corey Graves using terminology as dashed and nightmare. And they're dropping hints. WWE, what happened? What did you do? You tricked me. You tricked me into believing that Cody Rhodes was going to be there. You suckered me into watching 3 hours of your program, WWE, thinking that Cody Rhodes was going to be here. Wow, how dishonest on your part. I will not stand for this. This is unprecedented. I am so disappointed. Oh. Hey, Pluggo, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. You're having a good time with this, aren't you, chat? You guys fell for it. if you got mad because Cody Rhodes didn't show up, you fell for it. And y'all welcome to the world of professional wrestling, where promoters will do whatever they can to get you to tune in to watch their show or buy a ticket to their show, because that's what they do. Look, and I'm not kidding. I think there's a lot of people who were just angry because they got tricked into watching 3 hours of Raw. Because my timeline lit up with all sorts of folks. People that I like, people that I have no clue who they are. I don't know about people that I don't like because I have them on mute or blocked or whatever. But they're like, I can't believe, why wasn't Cody Rhodes there? I'm so mad. And because they were dropping hints. Like, he wasn't officially advertised. What WWE did, or the wrestler, whoever, right? Whoever decided to do this, they did the oldest tactic in the promoter's book. And that is to give you a sniff of what you're expecting. But be like, he never said he was going to be there. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, he didn't show up. And if you think this was bad, just a couple of tweets with very offhanded references to Cody, right? And Corey Graves dropping a couple of, Cody related terms, right? And so on and so on. And then it's like people investigating, Damian Priest's move set, going, well, he hasn't been doing the reckoning, which is essentially a crossroads, but now he's done it this Monday. What does that mean? All of that. If you go back into any era of pro wrestling, and the bait and switch has been it's a commonplace tactic. And I immediately thought about Colonel Robert Parker back in 1994. Okay, he's in a feud with Ric Flair. And he's telling everyone week after week, amping up to this pay-per-view. I'm bringing in a 300-pound blonde superpower man, kind of thing. And everyone's like, is he talking about Hulk Hogan? And week after week, he'd emphasize on the fact that it was a huge 6-foot, 300-pound blonde superstar that was coming to defeat Ric Flair, that he was coming to get Ric Flair. He's been wanting to get his hands on Ric Flair. Everyone is thinking Hulk Hogan, and he's saying everything. Parker is saying everything except the words like prayers, vitamins, Hulk and Hogan, or, what you gonna do? Like, aside from the things that would and everyone's like, it's fucking Hogan, it's Hogan, it's Hogan. And right into Slamboree 1994, he's promoting it on the show. He's still using that terminology, and it's fucking Barry Windham that comes out. And they had been doing this. He had been doing this for weeks. So when I see this kind of stuff, I'm like, God, folks, you got played. I don't know what to tell you. You got worked. And if there's one thing that I've learned about smart fans, smart wrestling fans, shout out. The smartest wrestling fans are the MrWarrenHayes show listeners, by the way. But if there's one thing that I've learned about your typical wrestling smart fan is that the smart fan doesn't like to be worked. Because the smart fan feels like they are above, getting suckered into something that a promoter said, oh no, I saw it coming. I saw this coming a mile away. But smart fans, they don't like it. So, when this shit happens and people get suckered into it, they blame the dirt sheets. They blame Corey Graves and the motherfucker. They blame WWE. Blame yourselves. And there's nothing wrong with getting worked. That's the thing. The basic thing. There is absolutely nothing wrong with getting worked. I wish I could get worked more often. If I can get worked, I'm like, fantastic. Kazuchika Okada was working me with his back injury last year. Until at some point I started putting two and two together and I'm like, wait, he can't be wrestling the way he's wrestling if he has a fucking hernia. What the hell? Warren, what are you doing? Now, this is where I will meet the angry I got worked people. I'll meet you halfway for a coffee and a donut because I think you deserve it. And I'll spring for it. And I'll be, here's your coffee and your donut. If a company does too much of this bait and switch nonsense, too much, it does erode the trust. It does. That's inevitable. The veer is coming. That's not working. That's WWE, stretching thin something that was funny maybe 3 months ago, and now it's just like, ugh, all right. So essentially what you get is what you end up doing when you when you do bait and switch too much, I'm getting there, is you erode the trust, right, from your audience. It starts eroding, and people will just will stop watching. Will be like, well, they never deliver on the promises, so on and so forth. I don't even want to do an AEW, or an AEW when they say they do what they do. I don't want to get into it because it's not even relevant. It's not even pertinent to do these types of comparisons, because I'll give you a very relevant comparison, and I'll take you back to the Monday Night Wars back in 1997, 1998, when maybe not most, but a host of WCW Nitro main events were completely yanked. Like, oh, we said that the main event was going to be this, but it turns out it's going to be that. And you're like, what the fuck, man? And being someone watching at home is one thing, but when you're advertising a big match, and people buy tickets based on that big match, and you don't deliver on that big match, that's egregious. And eventually, this is something that did harm WCW. You know, we can pull out all the, the economic reasons and, Eric Bischoff and the shit at Time Warner and, Turner Broadcasting. This wasn't Time Warner back then. Turner Broadcasting and so on and so forth. I was like, that doesn't sound right. And it wasn't right. We can pull out, the backstage politics, Vince Russo coming back in and everything. But WCW preyed upon its audience and by giving too many bait and switch moments where eventually it just gets, it wears thin. You get tired of it. You're like, man, I just want to move on. I want to do something else here. You move on, you watch something else. You watch something that delivers on its promises, that says, we're going to do this, we're actually doing it. As opposed to, hey, we're getting Sting versus Hogan tonight. Nope, because Sting got injured in an angle earlier on in the evening. You're like, that's not cool. So, I can understand. Oh yeah, the finger poke of doom is that's exactly it, right? The big main event, the big world title championship match, former friends, Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash. It was the big deal, right? But that wasn't the first bait and switch that they pulled. It was just the most egregious one in a series of. That's what it was. So I think this, since we're not in an era where there are only 2 cable stations and you need to go buy print magazines or have newsletters mailed to you, since we're not in that era anymore, I think it is extremely dangerous to pull these types of situations like WWE is doing and not deliver on something, because it will create ill will. Not as if WWE has enough of that, right? It's a company that already doesn't have any goodwill within a large section of the wrestling community, right? So when you start pulling shit like that on top of all the regular egregious stuff that you do, your bad creative, your terrible weekly shows, your snooze fest pay-per-views. If you start doing this shit, you get people excited, but you don't deliver on it. That just erodes away. Joey Janela is not re-signing with AEW. Not bit of a surprise. Not much of a surprise here. This comes out of an interview that he conducted with Denise Salcedo earlier this week, where he basically confirmed a lot of suspicions that come March 1st, he will no longer be under the employ of AEW. We knew that his contract was coming up in May. This is something that he had talked about last fall. No big surprise. And I think everyone sort of expected Janela's contract to run out, as a few other AEW performers have, right? Marco Stunt, for instance. So he straight out said he's not interested in signing with AEW or re-signing with them right now. A couple of highlights from the interview. I'm not going to read the full thing, but there's some very interesting bits here nonetheless. Let's talk about it. First of all, he talked about being afraid of going back to the indies, right? This is his quote right here. Back in the day before AEW, I was going out to wrestle for basically nothing. I was just doing it because I love it. I would do 3 to 4 shows a week. I would rack up small paydays from the promoters, plus my merchandise, and I'd be satisfied, and I'd be making a lot of money. But now my price has gone up significantly. My price has gone significantly up. So I don't know if the promoters were going to welcome me back with open arms. But recently, I've realized that the promoters know the situation. They realize what the situation is going to be, and they've been hitting me up big time. They say, we want you to come back here. We want you to wrestle some of the newer guys we have. We want you to wrestle some of the older guys. We want that Joey Janela back. End quote. By the way, the transcription, I ganked the transcription off of the Observer, the Figure 4 online. So I'm not surprised that Joey is going out there. I'm a little surprised where he's like, I wonder if this is going to work out because my price has gone up, which it should, right? I think it's logical for him to expect to come in here a little more seasoned, a bigger star than he was. So pay me, right? I think that's fair. But I find it really interesting that it was kind of nervous to go back. Where it was like, should I go back? If I go back, are they going to welcome me back? Are they going to be able to pay me? And if anything, the fact that everyone's like, yeah, sure, Joey, come back. It sort of follows what I've been observing in as such that promoters out on the indies are making, maybe, I'm not saying bank, but the situation on the indies is probably healthier than when Joey was signed to AEW. Maybe at that point, it was a little dicier. We were in the midst of there was a long period where we were in COVID, right? So, the indies were suffering. I think it's fantastic. Ever since WWE released all that talent, there's a fantastic ecosystem of wrestling that has just been renourished with a whole bunch of talent that you do want to see. You want to see come back. And Joey Janela is one of those guys. He's one of those guys who is loved and appreciated on the indies. So why wouldn't you want him around? He's a guy who has connections. He loves the business. He understands the business. He can go. Why wouldn't you want him out there? He also mentioned in his conversation with Denise that he would like more open communication with talent. Here's the quote. I thank Tony Khan. I just wish there were more. They've been doing this to people. They've been radio silent on the people that they are letting the contracts expire. That's why you have talent relations to talk to your talent and tell them what the situation is. If they are going to have a paycheck coming in, or if they're going to be signed to a per appearance deal, which some of the guys have agreed to. And a little later he says, I just wish there was less radio silence on their end with me. I consider Tony a friend. I hung out with Tony a lot in the beginning days of AEW. I just wish they would talk to me. I know it's come to an end. Isn't this something that Big Swole sort of echoed and everyone was fucking losing their mind over? I think it's important to point out here that there are certain things in this interview that Joey Janela brought up that people are like, very interesting points, Joey, that also Big Swole brought up, but people got fucking mad at her. Instead, people went, shields up around AEW and started shitting on her. Jesus Christ, I wonder why. Sometimes it does make you wonder why. Are the reasons just as egregious and basic as they look, as they seem? And when I see shit like this, I'm like, it's hard to dispute. It's hard to dispute. You know what I mean? Because this is exactly the same type of stuff that Big Swole was offering as constructive criticism. That's exactly what she said. It's a bit of constructive criticism, better communication with the talent. Joey's out here, better communication with the talent. People aren't shitting on Janela for saying that. The usual suspects are shitting on him and calling him, what do they call him? Jelly Janela. Jelly Janela. This usual crowd, this typical crowd of Joey Janela haters, they're just shitting on him because, it's the cool thing to do in their little circles, right? Because they don't understand anything. But it's weird, man. It's weird. It's so fucking weird. AK Germany 96 left a super chat. Thank you very much. AK Germany says, Joey will be fine, which I agree. But the lack of communication is a bit worrying if you still believe in the, quote, AEW is a happy family, unquote, image they put out early on. Look, and I appreciate your super chat. Thank you very much. And you know what? You're absolutely right. But here's the thing. I've been telling you guys this for years at this point. A company is a company. It's a business. And they will always make business-related decisions. You know? This isn't new. They're going to do things that are going to be company-like. Even if you say we're like a one big happy family, sure, until the boss stops making money, or until the boss is bored with you, until you're not doing your job to his liking. And he's like, well, unlike a family, turning around and cutting off, cousin Steve from Thanksgiving, well, we're just going to say goodbye to you and we'll never see you again, kind of thing. There's nothing weird about this, but this is a mentality that exists still with a lot of AEW fans. A lot of the faithful who don't see past it. And I saw a lot of people turning on Janela. People that I'm sure that if I had the time, the inclination, the energy to do that kind of stuff, if I were to go back in their Twitter account, probably find them singing his praises during his match with, first of all, when he was signed, oh, what a great indie talent. And then singing his praises because of his match with Omega and so on and so forth, and saying, accidents happen with Eddie Kingston. But now I see a lot of the AEW faithful going, oh, Joey Janela was dangerous. He injures people. He's a Nia Jax. Well, no one went that far. But he hurts people. You got to protect your superstars. You can't keep, these guys around. Wow. Don't. It's my usual trope. I say it all the time. Don't cape for corporations. Don't. There's no point in it. Stand by the talent. Be there for the talent. Those are the people who are putting their lives out, their necks out on the line on a weekly basis to entertain you with their pretend fights. Those are the people you should be supporting. The promotion is a vehicle for them. Don't ever see it in any other way. Anyway. This all leads to another part of the interview where he says that he thinks that he had heat backstage and that this is what culminated ultimately into him being kept off TV and eventually not re-signing. Quote, again, well, it was weird because we were doing this whole angle with Sonny Kiss that I basically booked the whole thing top to bottom and it was hitting on all cylinders for their internet TV show. It wasn't on TV and people were bombarding us to put it on TV. This is true. Sidebar analysis by MrWarrenHayes here, but this is a fact. Because it was so good and the emotion was there, people were into it and people started to hate me because I turned on Sonny Kiss. I said, listen, Sonny, you're over to a degree, but I want to get you to the next level with this storyline. If I knew otherwise, I would have had Sonny Kiss go over in our final street fight in Universal Studios, which was a great received match. I would have had Sonny go over me and I would have walked into the sunset. But I think they had plans for me. Tony kept on saying, after this, we're bringing it back on TV. But unfortunately, I think a lot of it has to do with the situation where I worked with Eddie Kingston in Charlotte and I super kicked him in the face a little bit too hard, came in a little bit too hot, and I had been squatting probably 50 more pounds than I am usually to be squatting and doing 100 pounds more on the leg press. I don't know. I didn't realize I had that type of power in my legs, and I gave him a super kick and I broke his orbital bone. He was going to be in a feud with Chris Jericho, and I feel that may have been the straw that broke the camel's back. A lot of guys, maybe some older heads that believed my hype and believed that I was some kind of dangerous professional wrestler. I've had times where I've injured people, of course. Everyone has. But once you get that reputation, it's hard to break that. I've had a string of bad luck throughout my AEW career, and I think that might have been the straw that broke the camel's back. But I don't know, because they don't communicate with me. They did the same thing to Marco Stunt. They just stopped talking to me. They just stopped talking to him. But I appreciate them. If you have talent relations, I know Christopher Daniels would love nothing more than to tell me I'm no longer with the company. But it is what it is. Look at that line. How many... Did y'all pick up on that line when you heard the interview or read it? I know Christopher Daniels would love nothing more than to tell me I'm no longer with the company. Daniels didn't like him. He had heat with Daniels. But he wants a run in Japan. Quote, one of my goals is to really have a run in Japan, which is something I've wanted since I was a child. I've done shows in Japan, but I've never had a steady run there. That will be in the works very soon. I want to continue what I'm doing no matter what the crowd is, no matter if it's 100 people, 600 people, 3,000 people. I want to give it the same effort every time. I want to wrestle new talent. I want to find new talent. I'm going to bring new talent to GCW to wrestle better guys and get themselves recognized and ready for a contract somewhere, whether it be WWE or AEW or maybe New Japan. End quote. Joey Janela, like AKA Germany said in his super chat, is going to be fine. But he's going to be fine more than he has ever been fine in the past. Because he's always been a stalwart on the indies. He's always been super appreciated. He's one of the backs upon which GCW was built, right? And he's still a fixture there. And you look at him now. You look into he is really... And I know it's something that gets tossed around, but he really is in the best shape we've ever seen him in right now, like physically. And you can tell he's tightened up, right? He said in the interview as well that, his experience in AEW has helped sharpen him, make him better. This is a guy who wants to go work a tour in Japan and wants to hit the grind for 90 days or whatever, or even just 30 days, right? And he wants to go hit that grind. How can you not be for that? How can you not want to back a guy who wants to get out there and be like, you know what? I had my chance. I had my turn. Didn't work out. Time for me to go back to doing what I do best. And I swear to God, he's going to do it better. Because right now in GCW, Janela is fantastic. Janela is doing basically what he was talking about in this interview here was like, give me my flowers. My time is now. Look at everything that I built, everything that I made, that I helped promote, that I helped create. Give me my flowers now. And he looks great. He's focused. I am stoked to see what Joey Janela does on the indies. And I swear to God, sometimes get a lot of comments. Like I get people who pop in and say Joey Janela sucks. I don't think anyone who has ever seen... I don't think anyone who says Joey Janela sucks has ever seen a Joey Janela match. They've seen GIFs from the GIF dorks. The GIF dorks, they have all their Jelly Janela GIFs all lined up for them. They've seen Zandig tossing him off of the building onto the car. They've seen that. They've seen all the trash. They've seen the botches and all that. Every fucking wrestler botches. They all do. Some of them just cover it up better. Some of them don't. I popped when he started talking about going to Japan. I want to see Joey Janela in Japan. I want to see Joey Janela in Japan. AK Germany 96 left another super chat. Thank you very much. Says AEW needs to hire John Laurinaitis to solve this. Yeah. Hey, John Laurinaitis will be Johnny Ace will make sure that your communication with talent is streamlined and clear. You know, it'll always be the same response. You'll never have to worry about, are we saying the right thing or not? It's budget issues, pal. Oh, thank you very much for the great super chat. Also, people need to chill the fuck out when it comes to wrestling sometimes. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just have to chill the fuck out because it's just pro wrestling. And it's nonsense anyway. Do you guys and gals and non-binary pals realize what we do, you know, what we like here? We're all passionate about the same thing. Do you realize what pro wrestling is? You know? It's absurd. You know, it's gleefully absurd, and we all accept the fact that we're all here on a Thursday night listening to me talk about it, because we all accept that at its fundamental core, I think, at its fundamental core, it's ridiculous. Pro wrestling's ridiculous, but it's a beautiful kind of ridiculous. And there can be all sorts of different types of ridiculous. And Joey Janela, what he does is a subset of that ridiculousness. Just another way, another fashion. Just chill the fuck out sometimes. Get people mad. Minoru Suzuki versus Effie. I'm like, why? Minoru Suzuki is a legend. Sure, go on. Well, you shouldn't be fighting. Just say it. Say it. Stop dancing around it. Well, I don't think Effie's serious enough. Oh. But clearly you're not familiar with the entire body of work of one Minoru Suzuki. His legendary feud with Robohand. What was his? I can't remember. Robo Mummy. Was that it? Mummytron. Let's review the shows. AEW Rampage, AEW Dynamite. Let's start with Rampage. This is not a popular opinion. It's not. But I feel like, again, this week, maybe not as much this week as previous weeks, but Jason PS3, nice to see you. Welcome. I feel like in this week, AEW Rampage was not must-see TV. And I think that's this is becoming a recurring theme, I think. And I think it's dangerous. The last time Rampage was like really exciting edge of your seat stuff was the live Rampage they did before Revolution, which was a live show, right? I get it. This week had the debut of Swerve, Isaiah Swerve Scott. It had the Jamie Hayter Mercedes Martinez feud, which having a bit of a culmination, which I feel could have been built up a little better to make it feel extra special, you know? It kind of felt like, oh, it's happening. I'm like, oh, okay. But nothing really felt must see. It wasn't so bad this week, but it does feel like a trend for Rampages. I feel completely content in waking up Saturday morning, putting on, you know, those wonderfully comfortable socks that I have that I showed off on the warm up to the Mr. Warren Hayes show on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. I have sit down with a nice cup of coffee, get myself some bacon and eggs, and watch Rampage, you know, but I don't feel like I have to stay up till at 10 p.m. because I don't feel like I'm going to miss anything that I can't watch tomorrow morning. And it's the opposite that I feel with Dynamite, where Dynamite I'm like, it's going to suck if I don't see it now. If I don't watch it now, it's going to suck. I'm going to miss out on something. I can always catch it again, of course, but I feel more attached to watching Dynamite in its scheduled time than I do Rampage. So I don't want to, it has the slip to Rampage slowly becoming WCW Thunder. Has it begun? I don't know. I don't know. But look, a couple of things. There were a few matches here, but I do want to focus on two matches because there's a lot to talk about in regards to Dynamite. And are y'all ready for like a 15-20 minute overrun? I hope you are. I keep calling them overruns, but when you do overruns every week, is it really an overrun? Jamie Hayter defeated Mercedes Martinez in a nice little match that went hard and that really picked up in the second part of the match. Over the knee backbreaker and rolling elbow by Hayter. Mercedes Martinez hits a suplex into the turnbuckles and the Spider German, and I'm so glad that's in her inventory and that she's pulling it out and dropping people on their heads. Britt Baker interferes while Rebel distracts, and there's a running lariat by Jamie Hayter for the win. Like, if this is the kind of... I feel that with Mercedes Martinez and Britt Baker, we've got ourselves a Hikaru Shida, Serena Deeb vibe going here, where you could put these two in the ring and just let them go at it, because these are two extremely accomplished professional wrestlers that can just go and are not afraid to turn it up. So if they want to do this and make it you know what? Here's the thing that we haven't had in AEW yet. A best of 7. Let's do it. Let's have Mercedes Martinez and Jamie Hayter have themselves a best of 7. Why? Why the fuck not? Just do it. It's for bragging rights. Because they've been at each other's throats. Jamie feels threatened by Mercedes. Mercedes like, you're a kid. Let's go. Let's do it. Keith Lee tossed QT Marshall around. Oh, we also had Darby Allin defeating Mark Quinn as well. But then we got to the main event where Swerve Strickland defeated Tony Nese. What have we been talking about since AEW properly, even before, once he was released? What have I been telling you guys? What have we been talking about? How a goddamn superstar Swerve Strickland is. Because he just has it. He has the thing. He has that thing. He already has a catchphrase that people scream at him. He's got it. And he's smooth in the ring. So fucking smooth. The trip up spot that he does where he rolls into the legs, that's always fun. Nese low bridges him. Strickland flips over, handstands on the apron, lands on his feet. You're like, it looked so easy. For a minute, I was like, I can do it too. Nese was a perfect opponent for Strickland's debut. Huge spinning kick by Nese. Hits the 450. Strickland kicks out. Coup de grace by Strickland. Look, I have been hammering home. And I just want to bring this back because this is something that we've got to put into the universe. What's the word? What's the word that people use? They expose it. They verbalize it. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. Manifest it. We got to manifest this. Shane Strickland is the crossover star that AEW needed with the departure of Cody Rhodes. This is the guy they needed. Cody, they were pushing him forward, having him be on all these shows to create bridges between other shows and so on and so forth. And I'm a broken record at this point, but I still want to say it. Shane is that star. He is that guy who can transcend the wrestling show, go big show homes, big show of home, go homes, sit down, do the judge thing, and people will be like, who is this cat? Who is this guy? He's a wrestler? AEW, okay, sounds cool, I'll check it out. This is a guy that you can build. I don't know if he wants to do a reality show, but you can build an outside product. You can have him put out records. You send him to the Tonight Show. People are going to go nuts over him. He's the crossover star they need. And like I've said before, he will go get a very different demographic than the one CODY was probably able to get. Instantly younger, which is what AEW wants, because that's where AEW excels when it comes to their viewership. Younger, growing younger audience. He is exactly the guy they need. They signed him. They're making him look like a star. He acts like a star. If anything, look, I am looking at at recent signings, and you look at how people have been reacting and how they've been treated on camera. Very early on, Strickland is making much more of an impact than Keith Lee. No disrespect to anyone. Keith Lee's fantastic, and he's made an impact on his own. But Strickland, whole other level. Those were my Rampage thoughts. Let's talk about AEW Dynamite. That started off with a hot show. A hot match, excuse me. And imagine that. This was a fantastic episode of Dynamite with great wrestling. And it started right off the bat. Just like I like it. No one standing around with microphones. We're like, nope, let's go right to it. Let's bring out Adam Cole and his buddies. Let's bring out Dino 210, and let's bring out Adam Page and everyone. I swear to God, I don't know who these dorks are who are out there saying Adam Page is not over. Fuck you. Watch the show. It can specifically, absolutely only be people who don't watch the show who will come back and say, Adam Page's not over. My God. The reaction he got again this week. Jungle Boy and Adam Cole have a great exchange. Hangman gets the super hot tag. They do a great triple moonsault spot. The babyfaces do. Luchasaurus did a standing moonsault on Red Dragon on both guys. Fantastic stuff. And did you notice how lit the crowd was when Page and Cole stood nose to nose, like in the later third of the match? Do you know why that was programmed? Do you want me to tell? I'll tell you why that spot in that match was programmed. It was for Tony Khan to look at the crowd reaction when those two guys were going to be nose to nose. They just had a pay-per-view match 2 weeks ago. They're back in the ring, facing off with each other. Crowd goes ape shit. Tony's like, all right, let's keep running with it. That's why these 6-man tag matches are so important. That's why these 6-man tag matches are so important. That's what you do. That's where you test stuff out for your audience. You're like, what about this combination and that combination? What kind of reactions are we getting here? Adam Cole and Adam Page stand nose to nose. People go crazy. All right, let's run with the program again. You're in confidence. You know that there's still interest behind it. Because that's what a promoter does. Doesn't sit in his fucking tower in Connecticut saying, this is what I want, this is boring. He actually listens to the fucking crowd. And did you notice when, and they've started, right? Look, the lower third, when Hangman Page and Dino 210 came out, at the bottom, it was, when they have the text and the rankings and all of that and the win-loss records, first time teaming as a trios. They use the word trios. Not the first time we hear it, but they're dropping it again. And again, Tony Khan is no moron. He does that, and he's like, are people going to talk about it on social media? And then he sees it popping up, and people are excited, and he's like, all right. Because he knows what he's doing. Good match. Page hits the Deadeye. A boom by Adam Cole on Jungle Boy gets the win. And I saw people, oh no, why did they depend on Jungle Boy? It doesn't make sense. It makes sense. I think we've all come to an understanding that there are tiers in AEW. Depending on, are you like in the top tier main event? There's lanes if you prefer, right? In WWE, there are no lanes. It's like whoever Vince wants to shift around, it's more like, it's more like one of these, block puzzles, that you want to put together. It's more like that as opposed to actual lanes. Adam Cole just challenged the world champion. If he pins Jungle Boy, top tier fan favorite, who is a current tag team champion, if he pins that guy, then you instantly understand that Adam Cole is still no one to be fucked with because he just pinned a fan favorite right there, dead center in the ring. And it's not going to hurt Jungle Boy. He's not buried. Dino 210 don't have that great of a win-loss record. And neither, and Jungle Boy doesn't have that great of a win-loss record either. Yet, people still cheer for them. They want more. These guys are bulletproof baby faces. Let's go. This is fine. Plus, on top of that, it makes sense for Adam Cole and Red Dragon to win. These guys know each other for years. They're a unit. We know the history. We know the lore of Adam Cole and Red Dragon. We know it. We're all aware of it at this point. Whereas Paige and Dino 210, it's the first time they teamed together. Of course, they're not as fine-tuned as the other guys. Of course, the more experienced dudes are going to win, right? That makes sense too. I mean, if anything, it's on Adam Page to have gotten picked two guys he's never wrestled with, as opposed to picking two dudes from the Dark Order. Or a dude and a girl. You know what I mean? You get a bunch of vignettes. We get one of Chris Statlander wiping her makeup off, removing her contact for her wonky eye, and I'm like, people are like, oh, is she changing? Is she becoming another type of alien? I think maybe she's dropping the alien thing. Give me some of this interesting storytelling where she hasn't been successful for a while. She had a match at All Out against the world champion. She wasn't able to get the job done. The stuff with Layla Hirsch. Oh, they're turning her heel. Why does everything always have to be? She could still be like pissed off and angry and still be a babyface. I don't know. Then we get the tag team match between Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley, where they defeated Chuck Taylor and Wheeler Yuta. William Regal comes out, but he stays on comedy. Oh, he was very funny at times, but he was on commentary, and he was delightful. Just wonderful. And some nice fun back and forth. Very confident, very eloquent. A nice break. Felt good. And he wasn't screaming in our ears. Good stuff. This match was all about Moxley and Danielson continuing their reign of terror on the tag team division, right? Well, I don't know how much, on the up-and-comers, let's put it that way. I laughed when Chucky T got a single leg crab on Danielson, because he just it was like Christmas Day. It was like, I locked in a hold on Bryan Danielson, and he was like, and he was laughing, but that didn't last very long. The boys, Mox and Danielson, they're just isolating dudes, picking body parts, going after holds. They hit a heart attack, which I'm very disappointed Excalibur didn't call. Come on. Yuta's in the ring and he's challenging Danielson to kick him with some yes kicks. Of course, Danielson and Mox get the win, but post-match, Mox, Regal, Danielson, they're all in the ring. They're celebrating. Wheeler Yuta, he's being carried back, but then he's like, he sort of leaves the best friends behind, and he hits the ring, and he goes up to William Regal and extends a hand, and Regal just lays in with a British strong style slap. Whack! That pisses him off. Yuta, and he's like, ooh. And Regal's sort of looking at him, and they're like, they're doing the stare down, and Regal's like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And Yuta's like, and you have Bryan Danielson, who sort of appears in frame, and he's got this shit-eating grin on his face. He's like, yeah, what are you going to do, kid? It was so... God, I love this shit. This is all I need as far as my wrestling goes. This is the... You see, when I tell you guys about in-ring storytelling, this is all you need. This is what Wheeler Yuta is like. Yeah, you guys are coming in here. You're dropping my name. You're talking about working with the young kids that you want to make them better. I want to be one of those. William Regal is like, bring it, sunshine. What do you got? And Yuta, you know what? They probably wanted Yuta to strike back, but he didn't. So he rolls away, and they're like, all right, come back next time, kind of thing. Let's see what happens. But god damn, that was good. God damn, that was good. And they're doing it. They're doing the stable that they were talking about, that they were teasing with us in the lead up to Revolution, and where most of us were like, oh, that would be so cool, but it's such a pipe dream. And yet, Tony Khan with his action figures is like, yeah, these guys are cool together. It's like... But this is all you need in pro wrestling. It doesn't have to be more complicated than this. You got wrestlers, pro wrestlers who come off as pro wrestlers, the real deal, and who establish themselves as such. They're like, yeah, we're gonna bring on the new kids, and the new kids come up and they're like, and now, tell me you're not rooting for Wheeler Yuta moving forward. Tell me you're not excited for this kid to get the William Regal seal of approval. Because if you tell me the opposite, I don't believe you. or you just don't watch the show. God, that was good. That was such a fucking good post-match angle. No frills, no nonsense. Just, oh! I know the fashionable thing is to talk about how great the CM Punk MJF stuff was. And it was, don't get me wrong. But in the lead up to Revolution, and I'm on record and you can go, there was nothing I enjoyed more than the Danielson Moxley stuff. I thought it was perfect. It spoke to me. This is why I like pro wrestling. And they're continuing down that road. I was kind of afraid what was going to happen. And they're doing it. Ugh! The Young Bucks are with FTR. The FTR is talking about how they had to dump Tully because whatever. And the Young Bucks are like, and they said, well, you could bring any manager, and even if your manager was the best there is, he wouldn't help you guys get a championship. And I'm like, wait. Did you say the best there is? Did we just... Was that a Bret Hart reference? It's as Homer Simpson once said. No, it's not Homer Simpson. I don't know. But if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, brother, it's a duck. All right, let's talk. Here we are. This is where we're at. the Jericho Appreciation Society makes its official debut. Matt Lee. Hang on a second. I can still call him Matt Lee at this point. Okay, we're going. Hang on. Hold your horses. Stay away from your keyboards. Going. You got to call Matt Lee. Hang on. Let me build to it. Matt Lee gets on the microphone, and Matt Lee, his greatest quality is how much of an old school promo he is in his delivery, his expressions, the way he enunciates. He's fantastic. Like, he's taking everything that they teach you at the PC when it comes to cutting a promo, and he's like, "Nah, man, I'm doing it like Bobby Heenan would do it. I'm doing it like Piper. I'm doing it like Flair. Fuck off." He gets on the mic and he sings Chris Jericho's praises, saying that if it was up to him, there would be no Judas sing-alongs, right? Because they're still doing the Judas sing-along, and Jericho lets it go. But he says Chris Jericho is a better man than him. Jeff Parker says Chris Jericho deserves to be praised, and he gives the microphone over to Jericho. And Jericho says that we all of us are lucky to exist in his lifetime, because if he wasn't here, if Chris Jericho wasn't here, there would not be an AEW. He's not entirely wrong. But instead, we undermine him, and we take him for granted, and we write hurtful things on social media. Very hurtful things on social media. Very hurtful. He says the inner circle never appreciated him, but these men do. And that's why they're the Jericho Appreciation Society. Because they can't relate to the rest of the roster, who are mere pro wrestlers. And he is a legendary sports entertainer. And I'm like, I am smelling that Vince McMahon, Pat McAfee interview, and I'm like, oh, Jericho, you brilliant bastard. Because I am convinced that that's where he got this line. He heard Vince say it. He saw people go nuts. Vince talking about, you can be a pro wrestler, you can be a WWE superstar. And I'm like, and Damian Priest echoed those. And I'm like, Jericho, you glorious bastard. How fucking great is this? Now, this is the moment that put it over for me. This is the moment where I'm like, this rules. Daniel Garcia takes the microphone and gets into Jericho's face, and he says that hang on a second, whoa. Because they're like, yeah, Dan Garcia. Look at him, we're surrounded by sports entertainers. Daniel Garcia says, if Jericho is going to stand there and call himself a sports entertainer, well, then I am a sports entertainer too. And boys, girls, everyone in between, that right there is one of the greatest heel turns of all time. Because we're not talking storyline heels and storyline baby. Daniel Garcia is the proper definition of an indie darling. This is a guy who has critical acclaim wherever he goes. He's a guy who every wrestling pundit looks at and said, for all of his time on the indies, is like, this kid is incredible. He is the next big thing. He's the next Danielson. He's the next He's the next Chris Sabin. He's like, everyone's going nuts over this guy and how talented he is, how unquestionable his talent is. He's a pure wrestler. No fanciness. He doesn't have this outrageous gimmick. He's not, he doesn't do the indie show nonsense. No, he calls himself Red Death. He comes in with a black gym towel around his neck. That's it. That's all he does. He's beloved for this, that he doesn't fall into the nonsense. And there he is in that ring, speaking in blasphemous tones to the entire community that has always supported him, that has always been like, this guy he is a pure, true to form wrestler. That he says, no, I'm a sports entertainer too. And he says it right, looking right deep into the center of the hard cam so that you marks at home can all understand what I'm saying. And I am sitting there and I'm like, this is brilliant. Because this is not, it is the heel turn. It is the heel turn for the wrestling commentators, for the pundits, for people like me. And I applauded it. I was like, fantastic. You got me to turn on Daniel Garcia. Not really, but you know what I mean. I thought it was brilliant. This spoke to all the smart fans out there, all the indie fans who are like, don't go to WWE, they're going to transform you. Well, he's letting himself be transformed. He's becoming everything we hate. But no, Daniel, you were the chosen one. It was so brilliant. Jody, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. And then Jericho puts him over and he recounts the very, very real donation that he made to the medical bills for the huge accident that Garcia was in 2019. Don't ever forget, this kid broke both his legs, rehabbed, came back, and is arguably one of the best wrestlers on the planet. He was in a car accident with Kevin Blackwood, Puff, Kevin Bennett. So he counts that. And then and then he starts talking about 2.0, which is a stupid name from Bad Creative, he says, and you'll never hear it again. We're going to be using their real names now, he says, in the Jericho Appreciation Society. We're going to be referring to them from now on as Daddy Magic Matt Menard and Cool Hand Ang Angelo Parker. Jesus, talk about Cool Hand Ang. Sort of rolls off the tongue. Talks about his good pal Kevin giving him a call after these guys were released. He said, hey, could you put them on your podcast? Give them a chance. And then he talks about Jake Hager, who's always been the one man he can trust. Okay. But it's Jake Hager. This was a brilliant, brilliant piece of setup here. Jericho surrounding himself again with people, creating his team. Essentially, what he wants is, look, this is what he wanted out of the inner circle. He wanted sycophants. He turns out, they all disrespected him. He wanted people to lick his boots. He got him. And I know everyone's been talking about it. It's a very mild take, and it's a little redundant, but it's undeniable. Chris Jericho's transformation over the past few months, the shape he's gotten himself back into. He looks 10 years younger. The stride that he's in. And if I never have to see Babyface Chris Jericho again, that's fine. He is so much more efficient as a heel. That's always been his strength. And in this situation, like, I don't know what they're going to do moving forward. Well, they'll probably feud with Pren Powerful and Eddie Kingston again, so on and so forth. And that's cool. But holy shit. A complete reinvention. Once again, calling himself the influencer, the sports entertainer. I'm like, I love it. I love it. Just tap into what the base hates. Tap into what your fan base doesn't like. They don't like sports entertainment. They come in to watch wrestling. Okay, let's have a character who's a sports entertainer. That's his thing. Scorpio Sky defeated Wardlow to retain his TNT title. But Scorpio Sky got manhandled in this match, for being honest. That's exactly what happened. The tides turned when Paige Van Zandt, who was there because with the rest of, or at least the members of Top Team USA, America Top Team, the American USA Top Group, the crowd of top Americans. Paige Van Zandt and her husband Austin Vanderford got into Wardlow's face, started making out. Sort of to distract him while Scorpio Sky laid him out. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know. Has it ever worked in the history of mankind for a dude like Wardlow or someone, jacked like him to just walk up to a woman and, bounce his man titties and then she be completely over him? Like, that's it. I'm sold. Take me to your trailer kind of thing. Take me to your hotel room. Take me to your penthouse, whatever. Has it ever happened in the history of mankind? I don't know. Like, I don't know what Wardlow was doing. Like, check this out. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of distraction in this match. Sky eats 4 power bombs. Sean Spears comes out. Lambert distracts. Everyone's distracting the referee. MJF runs in to smash Wardlow into a post. Scorpio Sky gets the win. After the match, Wardlow fights everyone off until Spear chairs him, and MJF gets a nice big shot of the diamond ring across the head. Wardlow's laid out. Good stuff. Good angle. And again, I saw a lot of people very, very pissed off at this. Scorpio looked like a goof. He's fighting Wardlow. Like, Wardlow is currently established as a monster. So this actually continues Wardlow's push. Sky's going to be fine. He's going to be absolutely fine. Plus, he'll be able to say, I defeated Wardlow, which is always a good heel thing to do, right? And he will eventually just like, they'll probably fight again down the line. But in the meantime, you want Scorpio Sky to have proper matches. Let's not judge the extent of the title reign when it's barely happened, right? It hasn't even started yet. Then we had the Hardy Boys defeating Private Party in the Hardy Boys Dynamite debut. A lot of offense from the Hardy Boys in this match. Private Party work over Matt mostly in this match, building to a Jeff Hot tag who gets a great reaction when he does come in. Hits a set out Gourd Buster. Silly String is counted into Stereo Twists of Faith. And we get the Swanton by Jeff for the win. Look, I said last week, I said last week, I don't want to be that guy, but I am that guy. I'm not stoked for a Hardy Boys reunion. I'm not. It doesn't, like, it's not the thing that's getting to me. Still, I can appreciate, maybe one last run for the guys, especially when they, they come out in the gear that they were wearing in their 20s. I'm like, it's a little, it's borderline cringe for me. But don't get me wrong, Jeff, Matt back together, there's something fundamental about it, but there's, it's not the thing that's getting me the most excited on earth. This was a fun match, though. I think we do need to point out the extraordinary work of Private Party in this match and how much they have improved since they started. Because I think one of the most, in AEW, of course, because I think the criticism of calling them, and I'm doing air quotes here, spot monkeys, was probably justified because I think their principal weakness was filling up the action between spots. And what they were able to accomplish with the Hardy Boys on Dynamite this week was fantastic, because they weren't just going from spot to spot. There was actually some good fill. They were building to stuff, and that's huge to me. I think it's a huge, huge improvement. Kind of gets me more excited to see some Private Party moving forward here. That's the kind of thing that it's little things, but then I'm like, this is great. Fantastic stuff. And then the main event. AEW Women's World Title Steel Cage match, where Thunder Rosa defeated Britt Baker to become the new AEW Women's World Champion. I like this match a lot. Baker immediately tries to run out of the cage, climb up and run out. But Rosa's like, nah, you stay in here. Rosa with some kicks, a lariat, a drop kick, grinding Britt's face across the mesh of the cage. Standing surfboard over the ropes. And she's just grating Baker's face and busts her open. Baker posts Rosa, then she starts pulling out chairs and chairs and chairs. Rosa hits a stunner, double knees in the corner. Baker gets Thunder Rosa in position for a super kick. Rosa dodges, and the ref gets the super kick. Boom! He's done. Rosa hits a Fire Thunder driver. No ref for the count. Thunder goes up top. Britt cracks a chair across her back and lays out some more chairs under the turnbuckles. She makes like she starts piling them up. She hits an air raid crash. Avalanche air raid crash onto the chair. Still no ref, but Aubrey Edwards runs in. Baker then, she creates like a structure with the chairs. Goes up top and dumps Rosa into the turnbuckles. Oh, no, wait, no. She doesn't, sorry. They fight like on the top turnbuckle, right? On the chair, and eventually Rosa throws Britt onto the chairs. Britt gets a super kick in a little later on. She gets some tacks. Thumbtacks. Britt hits a back body drop on the tacks, but Thunder is fighting back. She's not ready to give up. Goes for the lockjaw, but Rosa bites her hand. She smashes Britt's hand onto the tacks, like just repeatedly. Powerbomb onto the tacks. Fire Thunder driver onto the tacks. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. We're done. Now, can we all stop with the fucking pearl clutching in regards to women bleeding in matches on AEW? Look, in general in AEW, but specifically for the women, can we stop that? Now, because there's this constant criticism that AEW does it all the time. Look, I am of another generation of watching wrestling, right? Where it's like this kind of shit would happen a lot more than people like to imagine, right? Is this the context of 2 decades of WWE poo-pooing, anything remotely like visceral and violent? We're like, no, we don't like this. We don't want to do this. Is this where we're at now? Is this where? And I'm not talking, man, you should go and watch death matches on D&D. I'm talking about the 80s and into the 90s. What? Like I said, maybe it's different for me. And I think the use of blood is always a question of context. If I'm watching a card or a TV show or a pay-per-view, whatever, and there's like 4 or 5 matches on the card where people are bleeding, I'm like, that's pointless because it loses its impact. It does. Blood is a dramatic tool in the toolbox that wrestlers have at their disposition to add drama to what they're doing. So if it happens too often on one show, I'm like, all right, this is dumb, right? I had someone, on Twitter today, very, as opposed to many other types of comments sometimes that I receive, very calm, very, just, looking to chat up, debate. It's like, well, every time there's a gimmick match, there's blood in AEW. And I'm like, well, is it because they're hardcore gimmicks? Where you expect it, where it should actually happen? Because if you're doing a street fight and there's blood, that's cool. If you're doing a dog collar match, yeah, same thing. A strap match, absolutely. It's like you're doing a cage match. Normally there should be some blood involved. If you're doing a submissions only match, well, maybe we can have a discussion about, was the blood really necessary? But, let me watch the story. Let me see how it develops. Maybe it makes sense. I don't know. Because what's the opposite then? What is the opposite if you don't want, if you let, there's too much blood, I don't like the violence. And what's the opposite? Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell, which is systematically promoted time and time again as a match that shortens people's careers, that is devastating and destructive and takes a toll. No one comes out the same after, right? You've all heard it, right? And for a time, I think we would all agree that the Hell in a Cell was exactly that. But not anymore. Not when you have a pay-per-view that's named Hell in a Cell and you have 3 cell matches in it. That doesn't make sense. But where you have matches that finish in referee stoppage in Hell in a Cell, you're like, that doesn't make sense. None of this shit makes sense. It's not dramatic. It's not even interesting. Who cares about Hell in a Cell anymore? There's no drama to it anymore. So what's the opposite? Is this better? But I really feel like this discussion always comes up when it's the women. Like, for some reason, oh no, we're having these poor fragile porcelain ladies spilling blood. Ooh, how barbaric. This is equality, by the way. This is the kind of shit that people like me and like Kristen and anyone who advocates for women's wrestling, this is the shit we talk about when we say it's not always about, having an equal amount of men and women matches on a show. It's not always about that. That's not what equality ultimately means. Women hitting a ring, going to do a hardcore style match and blading, just like the dudes. That's equality. That's part of it. We cannot have this conversation every time women are going to blade in AEW, because it's going to be a thing. It's a recurring theme. It's going to happen again and again and again. This discourse is insane, man. You don't like it? Don't watch it. But the main thing here, this is, again, the discourse that this emanates from always comes from people who don't watch the show, who follow the GIF dorks on Twitter, and who see that and then they're reacting. Ugh, my sensibilities have been titillated. I do not like it. It's always the same thing. People who don't watch the product and are just waiting for, let's call them AEW schmatches, to tweet about it so that they can shit about it because now they feel comfortable on doing it. Oh, they don't like it, so there's a reason not to like it. As opposed to maybe just ignoring it and sticking to whatever product makes you feel good. Two decades of PG brought us to this. I'm going to tell you, you go back and you watch stuff from the 80s, even the early 90s. Wrestling is grungy. It's dingy. It's not clean. It's not supposed to be this pristine thing, where it's like everything is shiny. And, the WWE is a Vince thing. And it's evolved into something that I don't even recognize as wrestling anymore. I don't even see what, I can't get behind it. Because it lacks that energy. It lacks that visceralness. Congratulations to Thunder Rosa. Spectacular win. I enjoyed I preferred their match last year. But this is one of these things where you're like, I'm picking from my two favorite ice cream flavors, right? This was very good. If you ask me to pick, I'm gonna go with the original Lights Out match, which I still think was brilliant. This was so much fun and such a real visceral moment for Thunder Rosa, who has in the past 2 years been working like crazy to get herself into any kind of position in wrestling and to make herself undeniable in wrestling. From, coming through the forbidden door with the AEW, the NWA championship, to settling in, to starting up her promotion, to working in NWA and an Impact date here, and working on the indies and starting up Mission Pro. And Rosa is on one hand an extremely talented over wrestler, and on the other hand, a woman who is important to women's wrestling. I could not have seen, I can't see a better, more fitting title for her to hold than this one here, and major congratulations to her. Britt leaves a fine legacy behind her. Let's review Britt's reign. We can do a little post-mortem. 290 days. I would still argue that her best match as champion was with Chris Statlander at All Out 2021. 8 defenses, 7 were successful, which included Nyla Rose, Ruby Soho, Riho, Teikanchi, and Red Velvet. 2 defenses against Rosa. One of them not quite successful. Britt was undeniably the face of the women's division. She is one of the faces of the company at this point. Goes without saying. But, I feel it's a good time to move on to Thunder Rosa. We were all ready for some fresh matches, right? And if I'm Tony Khan, you know, after the match, I went over to Britt, high-fived her, and was like, you know, time for you to take some time off. You deserve it. You carried this. Go rest up. And Britt's probably like, hey, yo, I'm out of here. I think again, maybe outside of the Chris Statlander match, I feel like a lot of Britt matches were maybe a little, while hard worked, a little under delivering, right? And I think one of the reasons for that was completely out of her control, and it was the way that she was presented and booked as just a really cool heel that you can't help but cheer for, not unlike Adam Cole, for instance, or Scott Hall. And I think that undercut a lot of her challengers who were baby faces, maybe outside of Nyla, you know, the whole hamburger thing, if you want to recall that. Maybe outside of Nyla, they were all baby faces, but maybe none of them were as strong a baby face as to get the audience to turn on her. Because ultimately, that has always been the problem with Britt. Super, super, super strong character. Super over with the audience. Positioned as a heel, but gets babyface reactions. And there wasn't another babyface on the roster strong enough to counter the positive reaction she got outside of Thunder Rosa. Chris Statlander, I think she's well-liked, beloved to a degree, not as over as Britt. Tay Conchi, same thing. Ruby Soho, I think one of the main reasons she was brought into the title picture instantly when she was signed to AEW was to try and use that very, very excited, positive energy from the crowd to get some of the crowd to turn on Britt. But Britt is Britt. Thunder Rosa, on the meantime, tearing it up everywhere she goes, getting the huge reactions, just a natural over baby face, huge reactions wherever she goes. She's the only one. She's the only one that has the stature to get the audience to sort of maybe attempt to boo Britt Baker, who we all love. Britt Baker, as far as her character goes, her heel persona, pristine stuff. Unrivaled. Best in the company. Right up there with some of the best character work among the guys. Right up there. That's just how fantastic it was. She's not a bad wrestler. Don't even want to hear it. Feel like that was one of the main problem with her matches. Her presentation, the cool heel. When you come off with a cool heel and you don't have really strong baby faces to counter it, it gets dicey and might not get the results that you want. Might not get people as excited. Might not get people as, questioning. Oh, is Tay Conchi going to do it? No, Tay's not going to do it. Chris Statlander, maybe. No. Maybe, but you take a step back and you're like, no, Statlander's not the one to take the belt off. We'd seen it coming for months. It was Rosa. It was Thunder Rosa. It was absolutely Thunder Rosa. So I'm curious to see what happens next for Britt. Again, if I'm her, I'm like taking some time off, well-deserved time off. Go rest up her body. Whatever, get some conditioning, whatever nagging issues that may be there. Just nagging. Get all that sorted out. Come back. Now's the time. Look, I feel there's a good refresh in the women's division right now. Lots of faces being changed. Let's get more women on there. Let's just get more women on there. That's always it's basic. More women's stuff, more women's matches. Okay, Tony. I know you're listening. No, I don't know. You're probably not listening. Tony. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what I like to call the weekly wrestling inspection. Holy hell. Thank you all so much for coming around here and listening to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast on professional wrestling tonight, live on a Thursday. I think I just got it. Oh, no, okay. I'm sorry. I got confused for a second. I thought I had forgotten the super chat, but I did. Hey, Diego Rafael Solis Rivera coming in at the very last minute. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it a great deal. Thank you. If you're watching live, one more like, that'd be great. Super appreciative. If you're listening to this on demand here on youtube.com, drop a comment. Tell me what you liked in wrestling this week. What did you enjoy? Let's talk about it. I'll respond to you. Let's have a chat. It'll be good. It'll be good times. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, thank you very much. Consider subscribing if you're not a subscriber. All that good stuff. But folks, professional wrestling is great, and I love it, and I'm glad that I'm able to share it with you, and you sharing your love of pro wrestling with me. So, on that note, everyone, have a fantastic weekend. Thank you all very much again for being here, and we'll see you next time.